4. Cool. Mark, mate, today we've got you on for the Primabolics podcast. We are obviously here today in Austin, Texas with you to interview. We bumped into each other yesterday by a complete fluke, but I would love to get your knowledge, expertise with the holistic male coaching space that you've occupied over here for a good few years now, because we as a brand do a lot of products around optimizing male health, things like our natural testosterone support products. We do a lot of your even single amino acids, basic fundamental supplements for sleep, for magnesium, for a whole host of areas. But for your career, man, I thought this is going to be perfectly in alignment, hearing your experience on how you use life hacks, blood work, functional blood work, supplementation as well, to help men optimize their health. So, Mark, mate, for our listeners who haven't come across your page yet, who haven't, brushed up on your background yet, could you give us a bit of a hawk-eye view on your sort of background, how you arrived at this space for our listeners at home?
Yeah, so my name's Mark. I've been a online health coach for 5 years. I've niched down, like we were just talking about, into the men's testosterone hormone optimization space for probably in the past 2 years. What I do, how I work, is very holistic, and I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but for me, it's addressing the root cause. So every person that comes into my world, we do blood work, and it's not just the hormone panel, it's literally everything. So 50 plus markers to look at how is their health completely from a foundational aspect, and then from that, we start to create a protocol based on what specifically their blood work and their body and their symptomology, stress levels, all these things are telling us.
Love that. So 50 odd marks, this is fantastic, because a lot of time there is a simple things, and for back in Australia, it's going to be a little bit different units, I suppose, but simple things that we'll typically look at with guys would be like free testosterone, total testosterone. Typically you might look at estradiol or estrogen levels. You might look at, if you're feeling very special, you might go try and get a salivary cortisol level or a urinary cortisol reading as well to look at stress levels. But they sort of stop there. Sometimes we'll look at, I suppose, CRP, trying to look at C-reactive protein, trying to look at some inflammatory markers, blood sugar. But the comprehensive approach you've got there is quite interesting, because I think looking at the holistic picture is what we've always tried to do with supplementation. So I've always formulated stuff to try and look at, if there's an issue with someone, typically the handbrake is all around that issue, right? If in testosterone, for example, like I see a lot of guys' handbrakes there being, say, cortisol issues, but also probably gut issues as well, and so you go, okay, well, if you can't address the root cause if you're not also tackling adrenal issues, and you're not also tackling gut as well. So you've got to look at someone's entire picture and what's influencing them. So out of your the people who are coming to you, the clients that you are speaking to on a day-to-day basis, we were chatting just before off air on the sort of people that come to you and what are they coming to you for. Mate, I think that would be immensely valuable for my listeners, just starting off some of the symptomology and some of the things if you're listening to this sitting at home going, is re-optimizing testosterone for me? How is my health as a young male? Mate, give us some symptomology. I'd love to know what you're looking for when guys are coming in, doing your screening, to look for if their testosterone's low, if health is off. What should we be looking at?
Yeah, so for testosterone, when it's low, we see low energy. That's the biggest one that I see with people. The low energy, just like not able to, waking up fatigue, just not able to really get up and go. And then that goes into the drive and motivation. So not having the same drive and motivation to succeed, to train, to really just do anything. So those two things are the biggest things that I see. We look into sleep. So if sleep is poor, that's kind of a negative feedback loop as well, because if sleep is bad, you're going to have low T, and with low T, sleep gets even worse. Stress levels as well. Like, what does your day-to-day life look like? Are you training super hard, working super hard, not recovering, and not giving yourself adequate time to rest? So those are a lot of things that we see. There's sexual dysfunction as well, which is a main thing, like either premature ejaculation or erectile dysfunction. That's a big thing that we see. So one of the metrics that we look at is morning wood. So like, are you waking up with morning wood or not? And that is a really good determining factor of maybe your testosterone isn't peaking high enough to give you that spontaneous erection in the morning, and therefore that's something that we can look at and see.
That's a good one too, because I think, and often we'll do, so I'll do a lot of seminars back at home, whether it be with our awesome retailers back at home, hosting seminars for them with customers, whether it's doing podcasts with them, as whatever it might be. And it's funny, it gets chuckles initially, the morning wood conversation, but it's actually a really great metric. And we're not as fortunate as women where the monthly cycle is a really good glimpse under the hood of what's happening hormonally, like whether it's going to be, estrogen dominance, where we're seeing exceedingly heavy periods throughout there. We're seeing, bloating, migraine. We're seeing fluid retention. We've got the low mood, the irritability. There's heaps of symptomology around the female because of the cycle that we, with that monthly window gives us a perfect snapshot, right? Whereas men, we're not as lucky. We don't have as many feedback markers to look for that aren't as obvious, I suppose. Whereas that is a very obvious one, right? And I think the negative feedback loops, another massive area we work on is cortisol with people, because I noticed early on, I could throw all the performance supplements in the world at someone, pre-workouts, protein powders, intra-workouts, amino acids, whatever you wanted. You have the best pump in the world, train as hard as you'd like, but if your stress is through the roof, you're not sleeping well, nothing works. Nothing at all. And it's dead right, just like the negative T feedback loop. With the high stress loop too, there's the sleep feedback as well. High stress, bad sleep increases stress, around and around it goes. And people just bury themselves in these, they just get burnt out because they just go through the crappy sleep, the high cortisol, the low testosterone, they're unmotivated, they're feeling foggy headed, they're sluggish, they're holding more body fat than they used to, they're not building muscle tissue as easily. Man, we see this all the time.
And then they smash caffeine, smash pre-workout to get over it, which is only making it worse.
It is, and that our industry needs to hear. So here in the States, you guys have got a lot more cheeky supplements than we do in terms of stimulants, right? But we still have the same trend that I see the Aussie supplement industry going very heavy on caffeine. And like pre-workouts used to be 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine. Now it's 400, 450, 500 milligrams, 500 megs plus 2 or 3 other secondary stimulants. Man, it's insane, right? And it's a band-aid. And look, by all means, we're living life at such a crazy pace now. You know, the average person, it's like juggling work commitments, family, training, jobs, texts, calls, emails every second of the day. It's just go, go, go. It's no wonder why we need something like a stimulant to keep us just sane. Sometimes it feels, but it is this sort of just constant stimulus is really, really frying people. And so that's why I love asking, what are they coming to you for? Because quite often when we see them come up to their, whether it's a hormonal balancing seminar, and that may be, you know, a female hormone night, it might be testosterone night, maybe I'm doing an adrenal seminar with someone. Often they're coming to us because they are, usually it'd be the feeling lousy, the lack of energy, the low motivation. Quite often too, though, like body fat loss, like just weight loss is a big one. But I like hearing yours, how it's saying, look, the motivation's gone, the energy's gone, they're just feeling lousy, they're just feeling off. Brain fog's a big one for me as well, just feeling just doughy and just sluggish in the mornings. Really, really common that we see that. But it's always fascinating hearing other coaches, when people come to you, like, what are they coming to you for? Yeah. And now to give some background to the guys at home, because one thing you touched on before we started this podcast, which I think we would be remiss to step over, age groups. Now, testosterone had this big stupid myth around it. Pretty much it's only for people, if you're in your 40s and 50s, cool. Everyone else, don't worry about it until you're an older guy. The environment's different now. Yeah. So, man, your age group, who are the people you're seeing? Who are you working with? What's the classic age group? And what's the age range of people you work with?
Yeah, so to be honest, I get quite a wide range. I've got guys who are in their 20s and then all the way up to, I think the oldest man that I've worked with was 66. And it's funny because the 66-year-old, his testosterone was, and I'm going to use American units, so it might not translate. It's around 660. No, wow. The 66-year-old. He was locked in.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then I have 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds that are lower than that. So like you said, previously we think it's just for guys in their 40s, 50s, 60s, but increasingly as we continue to move into the future, it's being 20-year-olds. It's even being teenagers. There's some groups that I'm in, and I've seen 19-years with testosterone as low as 200.
No way.
So it's like, that is a rare case.
Yeah, but
so there might be some like trauma to testicles or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing that more and more often. Even 20-year-olds who, you know, they don't necessarily look like they are high T, but at that age, you still should have a decent level. Yeah, but they're just coming to me lower and lower and lower. So like, there's so many things, and we can get into like all the things that are decreasing it, from like environmental to societal, all these different things.
Let's hook into those, because I think the most important stuff that or at least when I'm doing these back home in Australia, and we've got rooms full of people, the things that people are trying to get as the take-homes are trying to get an audit of your own daily life, and some of the things that might be the root cause of how we got here in the first place. Because I can like knowledge bomb them for an hour straight, but it doesn't give you the same value as going, look, these are the contributing factors, the things that are pushing this direction. And for me, I've been quite concerned about this for a good number of years. We've spoken about it a lot on podcasts back at home about how in probably the last 30 years specifically, the mean testosterone levels decline in most developed countries, something like 40%, right? It's obscene. Like, it is gone from like the median testosterone level now back home. They just keep, the weird part is too, they just keep lowering the range of what's normal, right? In quotation marks for testosterone. So before, you know, it might have been 350 to 1,000 before. Now it's 250 to 1,000 back home is the normal range. But if you're at 250, like you said, you're damn near suicidal, you're depressed, you're feeling lethargic as hell, you're brain fog, you haven't had an erection for 3 weeks, you know, you got no motivation, you're building heaps of body fat, you got bugger all muscle tissue, like metabolism's sluggish as, like you're feeling horrible. You got like, man, it's like 250 is like, they should not consider that clinically normal.
Yeah.
That should be hypergonadal, right? So with, I suppose, contributing factors, super important. Let's see some of the common handbrakes you see with people. Let's start there.
Yeah. So I'm going to go into body fat first because with the rise of obesity in America, it's like 74% of Americans either obese or overweight. So that's a massive problem because you have more body fat, you're going to have more aromatase, which is going to create more estrogen in the body, which is only going to make losing fat harder and storing fat a little bit easier. So body fat, losing body fat, the 12 to 15% body fat range is, in my opinion, pretty optimal. And so if you're above that, looking into losing body fat is going to be a massive thing that you can do to increase your hormones, and that just helps with health as well.
Yes.
Sleep, like we talked about, if your sleep is poor, you're not recovering. In our sleep is where testosterone is usually produced the most. So if you're up and down, if you're not hitting deep sleep, if your sleep is poor quality, that's going to impact the production of testosterone. Excuse me. Stress as well, like those two kind of go hand in hand. High cortisol, that's going to steal substrate from from testosterone into cortisol, because those pathways, how they work, it can either go cortisol or it can either go down the pathway and produce more testosterone. So those are like the heavy hitters. I really like to look into environment as well, and this is a big category, but it's much smaller categories within it. So you can look into things like fragrance is a big one. So like the guys who are going out and they're wearing colognes and stuff, if you actually look at what's in that, it's pretty ridiculous. Like it's just chemicals on chemicals on chemicals, like some of them carcinogens. What I learned about fragrance, like the title fragrance, it's proprietary, so they can literally put thousands of different chemicals and just label it fragrance. So it can be like, oh, there's only 20 ingredients, but it has fragrance. It can be 1,020. You just don't know because it's proprietary, and they can do that.
It's remarkable.
So there can be crazy shit in there. That's just like you're spraying on yourself, like maybe even here on your neck, around your lymph nodes. That's just like
your thyroid.
Yeah. Just ruining all the systems. And it's not like one spray is going to kill you, but it's over time of like continually, like every weekend when you go out, or even if you're just wearing it every day when you go to work, that stuff adds up over time. So that's like a small thing under a big bucket. Look into fragrance and chemicals. Plastics is a really big one. So for bodybuilders, which I'm sure a lot of your audience is, like microwaving your meal prep in a plastic container, that plastic is leaching into your food and you're eating plastic every single time. So it's a simple switch too. It's just use glass. Do something else, or reheat in a pan instead of the microwave. It just adds a little bit more time, but over the long-term exposure of eliminating plastics, that's going to do you really, really good.
It's a massive one, man. Those two are really simple. I like you start with simple hacks because you can go as far as you want down this path. Eliminating like EMFs with Wi-Fi signals, with everything. You can go really like foil hat with everything. You can, and when you realize that a lot of our environment is unfortunately stacking up against our physiology now. Our physiology is very much at odds to our artificial environment, with a huge amount of blue lights, with a huge amount of. But I like that you went straight to the practical ones, because I think for people at home who are, if you listen to this, and a lot of our customers might just be broaching into this world, just dipping their toes in, it's very overwhelming, going completely overhaul your entire house. And, so I think it's really practical to start in low-hanging fruit of personal, like cosmetic products, 1,000,000%. And even simple things, like I notice a lot, I travel a lot, right, for work, and it'll be on the road, got half the year doing store visits and tours and podcasting, whatever. And you'll be in a random Motel 6 or whatever, and you look at the shampoo in the shower, and I do it as a bit of fun now. And you turn the label around, and on the front it'll say all the right stuff. No BPAs, no FAs, none of this. Turn around, 30 chemicals, 37. I read one last night, 29, right? And they're all very long, complex molecules, right? Like they're not simple things for your body to break down, like through standard phase 1 detox. Like they are heavy, complex molecules, and when we looked at it, was quite funny actually. When we looked at like large population size studies, so I was looking in the female space, because they've also got then on top of just fragrances as well, and the usual shampoos, conditioners. Then you also got makeups, foundations, mascaras. You've got all of the extra stuff. 500
chemicals just for a night out.
Well, it was almost in a general sense. So like they sample size was 100,000 people, right? So 100,000 women were tested in this 2017 study, and they found the average female consumer, and this is just the median. They were like there's a bell curve. The people on the high end were way up. The median was, they found 237 chemicals in their bloods. 237 was the average And they treat this, and like, that's just the middle of the bell curve. And like, so the higher end was like cracking near 1,000 chemicals were identified, right? So it's at a point now where it's just like, it is just like hammering our detoxification system, hammering our pathways, and our body, those detoxification pathways that would otherwise balance hormones, specifically in the female case, are getting really sluggish. Add on to that the chronic stress, the over-caffeination, the eating, then the BPAs come in. So simple stuff like swapping out a shampoo, a conditioner, and some deodorant each day.
Yeah.
Instead of those 4 meals a day you prep into Chinese containers, spend the $10 per container and get some Pyrex. And you've eliminated like microplastics, BPAs, phthalates. You've eliminated fragrances, synthetic chemicals, and for maybe for $100 tops, sort of cost. Go out, buy some new, so for when you look at where to invest your money and what's some low hanging fruit there, for $100 you can use Pyrex instead of eliminate plastics in a big way. Buy some personal hygiene products that are more natural based. That's a great place to start. Now, further on the stress piece, because I think that's become a big part of my life's work. I just published a book on stress, the nervous system, and how cortisol is sort of like just the absolute just killer of modern man. I think it's caused more dysfunction, I think, hormonally than almost any other hormone. And it's just because we're living in constant flight or fight, right? So when you're seeing guys, let's do a bit of a quick symptomology when you're seeing guys, and also just what percentage of your guys that are coming to you are actually experiencing issues with chronic stress and and where it's obvious that stress is a big issue for them.
Yeah.
How common is that in your practice, mate?
Yeah. Probably all of them.
Yeah.
Everyone who's coming in some fashion, their body's under extreme amounts of stress, whether it's just from the work that they do. They're like very high pace, high performer where they have a lot of responsibility. They're doing a lot of work and that lifestyle just creates a lot of stress, or because there's so many different types of stress as well. So that's like the more lifestyle, I guess we can categorize that. Then there's like the physical stress, which we get into the bloods and we see like, oh, your immune system's out of whack. You have gut issues. You're not absorbing food. You don't have the nutrients. That's creating physical stress on their body as well that they might not even know is there. And then all these different aspects of stress just start to build up and build up and build up. And then we see that with the low testosterone.
Fascinating when you said as well, and I love that you said that. People might not even be aware it's a source of stress. And this is where I think, so when I'll do an adrenal seminar, it's probably less so now because people know they're stressed now, but probably for the last few years, you had to almost convince people they were stressed, right? You'd be sitting in front of a room and going, these are all the sources of that can increase cortisol in your daily life. And you'd have to try and identify all the not so obvious ones just to almost get them into the thought process of going, oh, this may affect me, right? Stress isn't always obvious of going, and I don't want people who are listening to this confusing stress with just anxiety, right? Because a lot of people go like am I mentally stressed? Am I experiencing anxiety? Anxiety is a symptom of high cortisol, but anxiety isn't necessarily the stress. Stress can be, like you said, something as innocuous and completely undetected as having low-grade systemic inflammation. Yeah. It can be having issues with gut permeability you have no idea about. It could be a magnesium deficiency. It could be those 4 training sessions you're doing them a little bit too late in the day. The session itself feel fantastic, endorphin rush, dopamine rush, great for your body as well, moving and getting exercise in, but maybe that at 6 p.m. isn't as beneficial for you. Maybe we need to shift that to the morning or whatever it is. But you wouldn't go, oh, what are my sources of stress today? You wouldn't go, oh, my workout's a problem, or you wouldn't go, oh, maybe my a little bit of gut permeability. Like you wouldn't even know, right? So it's really good for people at home to go, maybe if stress is affecting me, I might not be aware of all the things that are affecting it. But some of those things you touched on are definitely there. I think the broken sleep and just there's almost like a sleep epidemic at the moment with the quality of it being trashed. So I think the amount of time we're on screens, we're working later than we ever have. We're taking emails home, calls home. We're working from over here. I just heard an interesting statistic in America, right? It's 70 or is it 80 million people now are considered digital nomads, so people who work remotely. 80 million. Australia's population is 27 million. Yeah. So like 4 times Australia's population is currently working remotely from the States, right? So you're taking calls later, at home, in bed, late at night, early in the morning. I'm seeing it now with the time zone differences because we knock off here at 5, 6 p.m. Australia comes back online and then my phone lights up. And normally at home, I'm super strict with 6, 7 p.m. Phone stops, turn that thing off, blue light minimal, lights off, stimulus down, right? So for people at home with your sleep optimization stuff that you get your clients practicing with and areas that you tackle first. So with guys, for one, what's affecting their sleep primarily you see? What are some of the common handbrakes? And then 2, what are some of your life hacks you like to throw in to help with that?
Yeah, so similar to the scenario that you laid out, it's a lot of work stuff. So like getting emails late, getting texts late. So that's a big one. Blue light, obviously. A lot of my guys aren't really aware of that yet. Like they've heard of it, but they haven't really dove into the blue light blocking glasses, getting different lights like red lights and amber lights and stuff like that. So the blue light screens, massive. because that disrupts the melatonin. That's going to make it harder to go to sleep, harder to not have a really deep sleep. Those are the two main ones that I see. And for my guys, it's just like creating a routine, a wind down routine.
Yep.
And, you know, there's a lot of hype around morning routines and stuff, but the best morning routine starts the night before.
I like that.
Right? So really just optimizing that hour before sleep and seeing like, okay, like what can we do to drive more resources towards sleep and away from stress and away from stimulation. So a lot of the time it's a hard cutoff with the phone.
Yep.
So putting it on airplane mode, putting it on do not disturb, putting it away, out of sight, out of mind. Because like if it's there, you're going to see it ping up, or, you know, we just naturally have the addiction to the phone. If it's there, we're going to most likely grab it. So just getting it out of your awareness, putting it in a drawer or something, hour before bed, and just that has a massive impact because you're not drawn to it. You're not, your mind isn't thinking email, text, work. So you're disconnecting from that. Light, I think, is big here. We touched on the blue light. So turning off the overhead lights. And it's really interesting. I like, because like overhead lights, the way we evolved with the sun was overhead. So if we have an overhead light in our room, evolutionary, we're getting the same signal. So like bringing the angle of the light down to lamps instead of overhead. So like lamps, salt lamps, candles and stuff like that. From a brain perspective, evolutionarily, we're getting a different signal in the terms of fire. So like when we evolved, the light source at night was fire, which is not as blue. It's more red, amber. So mimicking that, like I'm big on the like, how can we in the modern day world mimic the evolutionary path that we evolved on? So bringing the angle of the light down, the frequency of the light, wavelength. So that's in terms of the color. So amber, more warm lighting.
Yes.
In my room, I have red light bulbs. So as the sun goes down, I turn the red light on.
Yep. Oh, that's cool.
That really helps with the lighting and melatonin secretion, putting on the blue light blocker glasses as well. And then even with the phone, if you do have your phone out, there's like a trick, at least for iPhones, you can turn all the blue light off and just make it red.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which I find helps. It's a little bit annoying to look at, but you get used to it.
Great fix.
Those are a lot of things. And then in terms of supplementation, like magnesium is going to be amazing for people, especially if we're talking about stress, like the high stress, get them some type of either L-threonate or magnesium glycinate to help with that stress, help with the relaxation of just muscles, of the brain, clear some of that anxiety. And also GABA as well, increasing GABA secretion. So not only you're helping with melatonin from the light and the wind down, but also GABA to help you stay asleep from magnesium supplementation and all that type of stuff.
Massive, man. That's brilliant. A nice segue into the supplementation part, because obviously we're a supplement company, right? But I love, whenever I'm doing seminars, podcasts, talks at all, I'm always making sure, and in like my book, for example, I just wrote on stress, I made it an entire chapter of lifestyle hacks to improve it before I did the supplement chapter, because I think supplements are there to supplement your lifestyle, to help improve it, to help hack a weakness or an area of that we need to improve on. But it's very important to have, like, you can take all the adrenal supplements in the world before bed, but if that chronic stress is still there, it's a never-ending loop, right? You need to address both. So really cool, we covered on a few of those, and some of those are some low-hanging fruit. I mean, even one simple one like keeping the phone in a separate room. Now I'm traveling, I haven't been doing that because I've only got the one universal charging port, right? And so having it next to the bed, and even men, like off, Wi-Fi off too, that's super important. Everything off, still there, just having it there, knowing, man, even if you get up early, you roll over at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., ready to get up to bed, just instead of checking your phone immediately and being drowning in cortisol straight away, like having that in a separate room back when I'm in Australia is game changing. So someone don't brush over that. People at home who are listening to this one, like, let it. That's a super easy hack as well. Now supplementation, magnesium, 100%. I had my adrenal product used to be a capsule-based product, right? And so that was called Restore. And I used to have a lot of your adaptogens that would help with lowering cortisol as well, because I found that my big handbrake for a lot of people trying to improve health, that whether it be like weight loss, whether they're trying to build muscle, it was usually the chronic stress piece was their like handbrake in a lot of ways. Sleep was where that would show up for them. So we would throw them, I'd use the ashwagandhas, the holy basils, lemon balms, beautiful herbs, really passion flower extract. We can't use GABA anymore because we're just lame. But so we'll use GABAergic things, like things that'll stimulate, like passion flower extract. So some really nice natural herbs I love using that would work very well. But when we had our sort of FDA equivalent, the TGA changed laws on that, and now we're working through powdered supplementation with everyday sleep. That thing, I added in magnesium biglycinate, L-threonate, as well as the citrate. and adding a gram of magnesium in there alongside those herbs, man, the customer feedback was tenfold. Yeah. Like the product itself sold nearly triple what it used to. It's amazing and even like just personal. I know it's like N=1 when it's just my personal experience, but man, using those two products side by side. I love using Restore Now during the day for helping, like if my cortisol's too high, I'll use it as more of a daytime leveling product. Then I'll put the everyday sleep at night. That heavy magnesium dose, the threonates, the glycinates, phenomenal. Combined with the GABAergic stuff, combined with the ashwagandhas and so on, really, really nice at dropping the cortisol, promoting that GABAergic tone. Because I think that's a really big issue we're seeing now is that like alongside that flight or fight lifestyle, we have way too much glutamate, norepinephrine, adrenaline activity and not enough GABA activity, right? We never have that handbrake there in the brain to help slow things down. So I love that you mentioned GABA because it gets overlooked. And back at home, because it hasn't been, you can't buy GABA normally, it's sort of something that's a bit of a unsung hero, I think. And so like when I put in a lot of like herbs in there that'll help, like passion flower extract's beautiful. High doses of taurine can be very beneficial, you know. There's a lot of people in this space who are coming on to how beneficial taurine is, you know. And
it's popping up.
Yeah, it is, man, especially in the testosterone space. We'll go there too in a second. It's phenomenal how some of these supplements can make such big differences when you hit these areas that are you know, a pain point for a lot of people. So circling back, sleep, stress, common handbrakes for guys. We've got some environmental burden in there. Beautiful. Now, when you're talking about the age ranges, we're seeing everyone from teenagers right through. When you're working with these guys, where is your after we're fixing up some of these lifestyle things? Is there a supplementation piece? Because we're speaking about like starts for sleep, supplementation around the testosterone space. I'd love to hear your thoughts how that's evolved over the years for you as well.
Yeah. So I usually run people through 2 phases. So phase 1 is that foundational health protocol. So get their bloods. What are the main health handbrakes that we need to fix to get your body and your health just to a much higher state? So we do that, and that's case by case, depending on what's going on. So like if someone with leaky gut, all these gut issues, that might take a little bit longer than someone who's just not absorbing fats or not eating enough fats. So that is all dependent on the individual based on how long that runs. And then so the idea is we get health to a much better spot.
Gotcha.
And then from there, I like to tell my guys, we like throw gasoline on the fire, and we just like ramp up hormone production as high as possible within reason. And so that's the second phase. And again, depending on what they actually need. So like you can look at the hormone panel and we can go through some sort of scenarios. So like if someone's testosterone is low and their SHBG is fine, but the prolactin is really high, that supplementation is different than if SHBG were high. Because like for prolactin, we're going to use something like B6, 50 milligrams of P5P to bring that down instead of, because some of that prolactin is going to bring down testosterone. Yeah. So if we were to just like take a normal test booster that doesn't really address prolactin, we might not get the results that we want. And I see that with a lot of people. They're just like, what supplement do I need to take? Yeah. Well, it depends. It does. Right? It depends on what's going on with your body. Is your prolactin high? Is your SHBG high? And that's bringing your free down. And then that would be more something like a Tongkat Ali, a boron. Yeah, I love it. More things like that. And then we have to look at like LH and FSH. Is your LH high or is it low? Like what type of hypogonadism is it? Is it primary or secondary? And that determines where we head. Is it more like lifestyle focused, or is there something like a varicocele, which some people don't even know what that is? Like there's a really interesting stat. Usually when I do a presentation, I ask the room who knows what PCOS is. Yeah. And then most people raise their hand. And then I ask, do you know what a varicocele is? And everyone's like, no, I don't know what that is. I think it's, I might ruin this, but like 1 in 3 women have PCOS. That might not be right. But the main point that I get across is more men have varicoceles than women have PCOS. Huh. But people know what PCOS is. People don't really know what varicoceles is. And varicoceles is tanking hormones. Now, the solution is a little bit different. Like that, if you have that, it's going to be a little bit harder. But I think this just goes to show it's more than just like taking this test booster. We have to look at what is actually going on with the body that's creating a low testosterone environment, and then we supplement according to that.
Definitely, mate. It's actually one of the hardest things to create a supplement for a broad market. Yeah. I've learned this in recent years where it's specificity is a beautiful thing. And as I got bigger and as the brand grew and we went, we went from being, dozens of stores to hundreds to thousands, it became a real big issue trying to go, how do you make a product that hundreds of thousands of people will use that will benefit them all in some way, right? It's like, how do you tackle it? And so you have to go from your big rocks, like total T, free T, SHBG, and look at these areas, aromatase, how much estrogen activity is happening. But the beauty of the being able to work with someone one-on-one and get that real specificity and see what is your weakness, right? Because it's funny when you, like boron. So in my original formulation, didn't have boron in there, right? And the amount of people that just had phenomenal results out of nowhere with it, and you start going, okay, well maybe a lot of guys' issues was more around the SHBG, in that sort of sex hormone bonding globule and the free testosterone being quite low. Maybe we need to free more of that up, and that it's not so much a total production issue; it's a free issue, right? It's cool to see, I suppose, being able to work with them and be so specific and diagnostic, right? It is fantastic. And I love the idea of trying to biohack that with the very specific pieces, like looking at prolactin almost no one would, and supplementation is quite specific for that, and even like a Vitex, can be handy as well, and boosts dopamine at the same time. So it's a herb that's always used in females, right? And ironically it's like touted as something that lowers libido, like monks used to use it to blunt libido, but ironically it can be one of the things that like fixes hormones the best. I love the stuff. So that's really cool, man. So what are your in terms of boosting? So with us, like I use Tongkat Ali's, Shilajit's, Fedoja, Sustantia have been really, really cool. I tend to hammer the free pathway quite heavily because I just find that stress will bind that up, estrogen activity will bind that up, insulin resistance, inflammation, and so on. In yours, what are the things that you get the most bang for you, that you find most guys respond the bet, like the one that just seems to be like effective across the board? Like most guys seem to get good results. What's your favorites that sort of cover all?
Yeah, I'll go through my favorites. Shilajit I really like, making sure that it's a high quality Shilajit and standardized and has because there's a lot of trash out there and stuff. I mean,
Yes,
there's so much trash out there. So I'm very strict about like my supplements and the ones that I recommend.
Right.
But Shilajit, making sure it's a high quality Shilajit, that's going to help with LH and just the production in general. And then there's just from a general health standpoint, it's really good.
Beautiful.
So I love Shilajit. Tongkat Ali is one that I love.
Yep.
Standardized either 2% or 10% urecominone, which is that's the active ingredient.
Yeah, nice.
So making sure it's there. That one, we talk about stress a lot, and most of my guys are stressed.
Yeah.
That is a mechanism on how that works. It helps with the stress mediated reduction in testosterone. So if people are extra stressed, like Tongkat Ali is going to be great for them. So those are two that I use. One that doesn't have much research around it is pine pollen. Oh. And I actually had really good results using that myself.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, it's popped up a lot in recent years, actually.
I was running a protocol where it was maybe like 2 months of using pine pollen, and that when I was on that, I was doing a bunch of other stuff, and I was just locked in, but I got my total test to 1104. So
whoa,
pretty high.
Whoa. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. Wow. That would have been like...
feeling like a fucking champ, dude. Such a beast.
What dosages were you running, out of curiosity? What's
nothing crazy. Just like the standard dose, two little vialfuls.
Oh, yeah, it's a tincture. Got you.
Yeah,
I think depending on what powder you'll use, it might be 100 milligrams. So, but in a tincture,
it was a tincture. I used the powder before, and I didn't feel anything.
Much out of it. Same,
But the tinctures... Phenomenal. Yeah, dude.
Was that an ethanol based one or like
yeah, there's some alcohol.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. I'm always interested with this. So pine pollen was one of the things that I had a good friend of mine, like a naturopath, that I bumped into at an expo, and he was first thing he recommended when I was saying, look, throw me what you'd throw me as a naturopath at, for these sort of areas. Here's the lifestyle factors I've got. Just let's see what you would do, right? Yeah. And pine pollen was his first thing, and in a tincture he threw over. So he threw over a high B1 as well. So went TTFD, like a high thiamine dose, which turned out to be, even though it's a B vitamin, a phenomenal nootropic, which is...
I'm hearing more and more about the benefits of B1.
Crazy, man. Phenomenal. And then the pollen was really cool. A Shilajit, a really good quality Shilajit as well. And it's really... I think that's one of those herbs that's like the conqueror of mountains, right? Like it's got its really cool roots in being something that makes you resilient as all hell. If you want someone to be bulletproof, Shilajit's one of those things that just makes you, like, it helps with nutrient absorption, immune system function, sperm production, sperm motility, free test, like, helps everything. Like, I use it at a low dose even in my greens product, like Everyday Health, because I see it has massive benefits, and I use it in there for like a bit of nutrient absorption, a little bit of immune support as well. Like, just say 50 milligrams of standardized powder, so that men and women are all fine and stuff. But I love Shilajit for a host of reasons, even like mitochondrial energy production support, right? Like, no one's across how good it is. It outperforms CoQ10 tenfold, for supporting mitochondria to produce ATP faster. It's a wicked compound, and it got bundled. I think it just got put in the testosterone basket first, and I'm glad that it's out there now, that it's at least getting some time, like airtime. But it does so many things. Like, it makes you feel energetic and bulletproof, resilient, and like, Yeah, it's awesome.
When I was having it, I was just doing that in the morning instead of a cup of coffee, and I was flying.
That's so good, man. I love the and we'll do caffeine timing in a wee bit as well. I'd love to do though gut. So I was on your website. There's a great testimonial there from a gentleman who said that he had been on antidepressants for 10 years, had chronic gut issues, massive issues with food sensitivities, and after working with you for a period of time, he got off medications and managed to heal his gut and can now eat pretty much anything. And I think the gut is an area that I've become fascinated with because, and albeit late to the party in some respects, I went all around biology, hormonally speaking, and circled the gut, knowing that that's the last frontier that's going to probably take me the next 10 years to really master, right? So I spent the first 10 years of my career going, testosterone, cortisol, estrogen, all the others. Now I'm looking at the gut as the main pillar, and I've realized all of the symptomology and all of the pieces tie into it, and it also feeds them. The same feedback loops exist, like with the stress and sleep, testosterone and sleep, gut and everything is there as well. Like the inflammation piece, like the cortisol is inflammatory. So I used to look more as how cortisol is the inflammatory issue. Well, that'll be there, but then the cortisol inflamed the gut, and inflamed gut will also cause systemic inflammation again. And then inflammation by itself is stressful, and the body's more stressed. And it's just, there's all these huge, just when you mind map it, it just blows you, right? Like I sat there with the whiteboard, and when I first started looking at these and all the areas that you hit, and I went, oh shit, this is everything. Mitochondrial energy production, gut-brain axis, oh god, we're looking at hormone production, oh detoxification, oh god, leaky gut, oh endotoxemia, oh no, immune function, oh autoimmunity, oh, and it all just went, like it all clicked. Like everything just, like, I was like, wow, this was actually the fun, like the real foundational pillar that I should have been looking at all these years. You with testosterone specifically, and what you've seen with guys like your client that's come along, and you've completely changed his life. And it sounds like there was probably some gut issues there at the root of that as well.
Oh yeah, man.
Run us through one, how common it is. Two, what are some of those negative feedback loops you see where the gut impacts hormones? Let's geek out on it.
Yeah, that guy was awesome. It was really cool working with him because for him, it was the medication that was actually creating a lot of gut issues. So like that was the root cause. And, it's kind of a gray area that we have to work around. I'd never recommended him to do it.
No, that's cool.
It was his choice, and he was working with his doctor to wean off. So we slightly tapered down the dosage of the medication. And then once we got to him not taking it, the body wasn't being triggered to create all these issues. And then we could really address what was underneath that, which was SIBO. So we just went through a SIBO protocol, oregano oil, allicin, what was the other one? Berberine, I think.
Berberine's great for it.
Yeah. So we were doing that, ran that for a period, and just like symptoms continued to get better and better and better and better until the point where he was good.
It's remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah. Before that, we went through a few phases. So initially we did like stomach acid, supporting stomach acid, making sure that's okay. Leaky gut, heal the gut, any leaky gut going. And then we went into SIBO. And that whole phase maybe took like 6-ish months. But then at the end of the 6 months, just feeling way better. Didn't have because he would just eat something and then he'd immediately have to go to the bathroom. And so that started to slow down. And then just his life in general started to get so much better. He was on the medication for anxiety and depression, and almost getting off the meds helped him with his anxiety and depression because that was creating gut issues. And then that was creating this just like, I can't heal. I'm going to have all these issues for the rest of my life. And that like put him in a spiral. So that was a really awesome instance that I was able to help someone with. Another more recent one, and how we can connect it to hormones as well, is a client on his blood work. He had low cholesterol, low triglycerides, low LDL and low HDL. So most people would be like, oh, like that's good. His cholesterol isn't high. But there's a whole cholesterol myth we can go into. Like, cholesterol is a precursor to testosterone. So if that's low, your hormone produces.
I get red belt. I get like real alarm flags when I start seeing that. You get red flag if you've got low, and also low triglycerides and low cholesterol and low HDL and low LDL. That actually screams issues, because you're dead right, man. And let's before you go into your story, anyone listening, cholesterol gets bashed really hard by the cardiovascular space, right? But it's a substrate, right? When you go, like, you look at the whole hierarchy of hormones, cholesterol, pregnenolone, DHEA, and so on, it's the very top of the totem pole, right? And I think people, you brushed on it before as well, when you're saying you're doing your priming phase, just making sure there's adequate dietary fats around. Man, I've been traveling here for about 5 weeks now, living on the road, like huge days. I've driven about 6,000 miles, like proper freaky big workload. I jam my fats up to like 120 grams for the last 2 weeks. And the physiological difference has been insane, right? Because I'll go really high fat, I'm going, okay, very stressful environment, sleep's weird and thrown out with jet lag, blah, blah. I'm going in a lot of like your curcumins, your glutathiones, throwing a lot of omegas and essential fatty acids, like looking after inflammation as much as I can. Adrenal starts before bed, the everyday sleep before bed, micronutrient support, greens and lots of veggies, but fats, jam that high because you need to have the substrate to build the hormone, especially if you're in a less than ideal environment to begin with, where you know you're hampering testosterone. So, but there, when you said there, I love that you said it's like low cholesterol, you know, that's an issue. Because everyone at home we go, oh man, that's awesome. He sounds like a healthy dude. No. So proceed.
Yeah, exactly. There was actually the study that I love referencing is in Korea, is like massive study, really high quality study. And it actually showed that the people in the lowest tertile, or like third or maybe even fourth, they had the higher risk of all-cause mortality than the side that's traditionally high cholesterol. So that just goes to show like this cholesterol idea is a little bit backwards, and that study is like a really good proof on that. I can share it to you if you want. But coming back to the guy, so he had like low lipids, and then we looked at his liver as well, and his AST, ALT were a little bit elevated. So that shows me like maybe there's some gallbladder issues. And that, coming into the fat conversation, we need bile to digest and absorb fats.
Yes.
So his fat pathway was all jacked up. So we didn't do anything with hormones. We didn't do anything in terms of that. We just looked at his gut health, his digestion. So we addressed bile. We addressed the liver and absorption of fat. So eating practices. So this is one that I really love, is just throwing in bitter vegetables like arugula, radish, chicory, things like that are going to help produce bile.
Yes.
And therefore, you're going to have more bile with the foods that you're eating, especially if you're eating a fatty meal. It's going to help your digestion and absorption of it.
This is really big in a lot of the traditional Chinese medicines as well, using bitters, right? And even in Europe as well, like Swedish bitters and so on, like a lot of those to stimulate vagus nerve, which will then stimulate activity, even if you have a bit of a sluggish gallbladder. And the so like apple cider vinegars, same sort of theory, right? Like a lot of people now at home, they're getting big on using apple cider vinegar gummies or using like a capsule. And it's like, look, acetic acid's still cool. You'll get some benefits from that vinegar, but the reason you're using the vinegar is that real bitterness can really stimulate that nerve, which can switch on the digestion. You're sort of missing the benefits, right? Like it has to be nasty. Black coffee, great one, something that's warm but also helps stimulate. You know, so it's going to stimulate some blood flow in the gut, but also a bitter compound as well. Like just a warm decaffeinated coffee can be a great way to help, you know, before a meal, or like miso in Japanese culture and so on. Bitters are huge, actually. That's really cool. And a lot of your plants you see that are beneficial, that stimulates that sort of stuff. A lot of the time, they are very bitter compounds, like berberines. Phenomenal antimicrobial in the gut, awesome for pretty much everything, but hyper bitter compound. You have to capsulate it because it tastes like ass. It's horrible. So in your guys' case then, it sounds like so that fat pathway being all jacked up, so we're looking at like, he's not absorbing the fat in the first place. That's why we've got the low blood lipids, the low cholesterol, because again, there's no substrate going into the system. It's probably just being passed completely. So you're trying to go, let's stimulate some bile production. So your taurines are fantastic, your bitters in the foods as well to get both. Great. Continue. So,
I think from that was just the food, bitters, throw bitters in the diet with fatty meals. And then from supplementation, there's a product I like called Super Enzymes. It's got ox bile. It's got
great product.
betaine ATL. So not just addressing bile, like we want to throw in some stomach acid support as well, because there's a cascade of like, if stomach acid is low, that's going to hinder bile. So top-down approach. And we can even go all the way to the top of like nervous system. When you're eating, 3 deep breaths, hum, parasympathetic. So like all the digestive processes can work. We go deep.
I love that.
And then we can go back into supplementation. So like, I think we were using taurine, we were using Tongkat.
Yes. Love Tongkat.
I think there was one more. Super enzymes, things like that.
Tongkat is fantastic. Everyone does a home, like, so we make a straight Tongkat in a capsule, and it annoys me because everyone just calls it, like, it must be basically guys on cycle using it for liver support, right?
Exactly.
Which is a pain because it's such a beautifully therapeutic compound. Like, it's an, there's amazing acid that will stimulate all that production and help with fat, like emulsification and fat absorption and liver support. It's like, yes, it supports liver, but that's sort of downstream. It also has some amazing benefits for getting that bile flowing. It's a beautiful, like, I love working with it. Like, I'll use Tongkat alongside, and that's a good one. Like, we don't make one at the moment, but that's a Now Foods product, I believe, that super enzymes with the ox bile. Low stomach acid, so I use Gentiana lutea in my everyday health, and Gentian or Gentian is like, so Gentiana is really good for stimulating stomach acid production. And it's funny because when I have a lot of people who first started using our greens initially, they'd have a lot of gut health issues resolve, and a lot of it came down to that hyperchloridia, that low stomach acid.
I see that all the time.
Man, it's crazy. And like you watch the chart of stomach acid that naturally declines, and it's quite funny when you watch all the things in our biology that are made to decline, unfortunately. It all seems to be from around 30 onwards to 40. Stomach acid declines, NAD production declines, so energy production is pretty trashy, but the stomach acid declines significantly in that window from 30 to 40. It's like it goes down at a nice like 1-2% a year, then it's 30 and just goes and it drops like 30% in that 10-year window, and you're like, God damn it. So a lot of people have like low-grade bloating. Like I have people in the stores, man, who'll walk into a supplement store and go, like, oh, I'm having issues with bloating, I'll grab your greens. Awesome, we're going to help you. Most of the benefits though were coming from that gentiana, stimulating that stomach, that increasing that stomach acidity and helping there, because that's a real big issue where I think that low stomach acid, it's a mechanical issue at that point. They're not mechanically digesting, dissolving and breaking down foods. Everything's fermenting. Then you have a lot of issues in there. So I love that because not many people are actually looking, that's pretty progressive. Not many people are actually looking at the stomach acid part. Yeah. It's a big issue. It's a real problem. So you're going the whole way down, nervous system right through. And then we get to that part. And so with this guy here, I'd love to hear his recovery story, because I'm sure after a few months working with you, he's flipped the script a bit. So we've worked on improving the fat absorption and helping that digestive process. What were some of the immediate symptoms on the positive side that he got after that? Like I'm sure he would have been feeling like trash before.
Yeah. He wasn't feeling that great before. Symptomology, just more lethargic, tired, bloating after meals, stool inconsistency and stuff like that, gut health issues, all those. But yeah, after, I think this was maybe 3 months working on that, all that gone, like locked in, physique improving, amazing energy levels, just like he mentioned, just like feeling the best that he's ever felt. So just from wow. Like, this is why I love what I do so much. It's the root cause. Like, just from looking at, like, if I were some person without that skill set, I would put him in a protocol and he might not get the same results.
Yes.
So like, because he's not getting what he needs. This guy, we gave him exactly what he needed. And so therefore pretty quickly his energy, everything in his life started to change. And from a hormonal perspective, I think when he started, it was around 500, 525, something like that. So after this, he recently got his bloods and he was at like 870.
Wow.
So he went from mid-range to like, that's pretty high.
It is. Yeah.
My optimal range is 700 and above, and he smashed through that. And the key here is that we didn't do anything on hormones. Literally nothing. All we did was address the gut and his absorption of fats and nutrients, because testosterone is very micronutrient correlated. We need to have adequate adequate levels of a lot of micronutrients to have the adequate production of testosterone. So that's why I love what I do so much, because it's just like so targeted and so specific, and you don't need to do all these things. Like, we're doing that now. Like, that's the phase 2 that we're on. So we can go. But yeah, that's,
man,
love it.
I love it. I love a few things I'll pull out of there. The working around the problem to fix the root cause. Man, so we interviewed Corey Boutwell from Set the Standard yesterday as well, another a guy who's working in the male health community, helping them with personal development and everything. And we came up in that conversation as well. We also came up with, so often it's not so much that people have they need to do more, it's they do less, right? It's taking out the handbrake. I see this at home where, and in like, I came from a background of competitive bodybuilding, so in the bodybuilding space, it's a logical sequence of, if you need to lose more body fat, for example, you need to eat less, do more cardio, train harder. It's do more, right? It's take out food, do more cardio, do more output, whatever. And it's a seemingly logical conclusion, right? When you get like Gen Pop will come into a supplement store, on average, Jenny, mother of 3, 40-year-old woman comes in, thinking she has to lose weight, going, well, I have to logically eat less than I currently am, or do more than I currently am. Little does Jenny know that she's already living on 4 coffees a day. She's already eating barely 1,000 calories, with practically no thyroid's cooked, with practically no nutrients. She's stressed out of her brain. Kids running everywhere. She's got crappy sleep. And a calorie deficit's going to help that. It's going to cook that thyroid further. It's going to jam that cortisol up. It's going to do all these things. If we backed off some of those coffees with Jenny, got us some like the micronutrients in there, man, honestly, the amount of like amazing things that have just been, we're throwing, like when I started adding micronutrients to things, so I used to formulate with, and I've always been a bit weird, I suppose, like, I love naturopathic herbs, traditional Chinese herbs. I love using botanicals because I work on multiple pathways. So like an ashwagandha that'll work on cortisol, will also work on thyroid and testosterone, and like all these, it's a really nice systemic approach, right? It's like systems theory. But with people, man, it's always pull out the handbrake. For her, the handbrake would be the stress and the undereating, right? Feed more, do less. And it's counterintuitive to the average person because you're listening to this at home going, man, like, how are you going to lose weight doing less than I currently am? Yeah. But it's funny, man, like your person there, get them digesting fats well, you've got substrate to produce a hormone that then you can actually, which will then obviously increase energy, motivation, drive, better body composition. All of it will come downstream of that. But if you just kept trying to jam in, I mean, and as the owner of a supplement company, ironically, it's not the best thing to say, it might seem, but going, like all supplements in the world can't help you if if you're not looking at root causes, not looking holistically at the person, right? Yeah. So I love going alongside it, and I miss that I used to work more one-on-one with people. That's why I love doing seminars now, because you can at least work with 20 odd people and get a bit of a feel for the room. But it's such a great space when you can find people's handbrakes, because everyone listening to this, if you take away nothing else from the episode, it's not about doing more. A lot of the time, it's about finding what's holding you back and just letting that go. And that's brilliant. And then the micronutrient piece will transition into, now, this is something that I think was my secret weapon. When I used to work with botanicals, and I say I loved herbs, the thing that really leveled up the game, though, was when I did my botanicals with the micronutrients. It's the herb asking the body to do something with the nutrients to do that. The cofactors to carry that out, right? Yeah. What are some of your favorites? And what are the ones that you see guys are quite often, either deficient in, low in, or benefit the most from when they first start using them? What are some of your favorites that you'll often use yourself or with clients?
Yeah. Biggest one is vitamin D.
Yeah, cool.
Because most people in the world are vitamin D deficient.
Ironic as hell, isn't it?
90% of bloods that I see are low vitamin D.
Yeah, it's funny, man. And I'd love for you to speak to the values you like to see, because I think as well, the range is like testosterone, 250 to 1,000. It's a barn door, right? If you're at 250, you're damn near suicidal. If you're 1,000, you're Superman. Both are considered normal under the eyes of the Medicare system back home. Same with vitamin D, right? So you can be normal and just on the bottom end of that spectrum, but again, that's nowhere near optimal, much like the RDI, a lot of vitamins and minerals. So with your guys, where are you often seeing people? Because in our country anyway, it's something like 40% of people are vitamin D deficient. And it surprises you because, Texas is bloody hot. But I'm sure you're in a similar boat. So what are you seeing in bloods, and where do you like them to be?
I think I'm not entirely sure of the actual unit, but from US units, essentially 70 to 90, 70, kind of like 100 as well, 70, 100.
Yep.
And most of the people that I see, 20.
Wow.
Some in the teens. Some of the teens just mass, like even on the lab sheet, it's low most of the time. And like if it's low on the lab sheet, that's it.
Yeah, that's a problem, because they're already accommodating a lot, man.
Yeah, they're accommodating a lot for sure.
They're carrying us a lot.
So seeing that really low. I think that was another thing with the same guy with the fats. Like his vitamin D was low. We supplemented vitamin D, and again, like high T. Vitamin
D is a massive one, man. And dosages for that, because I think vitamin D gets misunderstood, and like it acting as an actual hormone more so than a vitamin, right? It's an incredible thing. So I use 2,000 IU in my greens. I use 2,000 IU in my everyday primal, my test booster. I would like to go higher, but again, I just have to be cognizant of mass market, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to dose high with mass market product.
It is. So like I often get people on a combination, so I'll use like everyday health and everyday primal, and they're getting say 4,000 IU, but you can go really, really high with vitamin D, especially when it's an acute period to correct a deficiency. Yep. Where do you start? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, usually depends on if it's in like the teens, I usually go with 30,000 IUs every other day. Yeah. And run that for a few weeks to get them, just to get levels back higher. And then usually more of a maintenance dose of 10,000 just to see until we do another blood test and they're in the good range. And then, we can bring that dose way down to maybe 5 or even lower than that. Sometimes even just like stop the supplementation. But again, like sunlight is definitely the best way to get this.
It's funny though, can get it, but if they have the gut issues there, high body fat, inflammation, people don't understand. Like it's not just, there's the sun. They're like, oh, I get plenty of sunlight, it covers, and yet their bloods will come back trash. And so sometimes supplementation. This is one of those examples where combining the both, right? Make sure we're getting more sun exposure. And then also, as your insurance policy, throw in 5,000-10,000 IU alongside, because chances are, if you've got some conversion issues with that pathway, or utilizing that vitamin D supplementation, you've got the sun. If you're having issues with converting that hormone as well downstream, whatever reason that might be, the supplementation's got your back as well. So you can sort of use. I always like to throw the kitchen sink at it, so to speak, and just so at least I can guarantee they're getting the nutrient they need, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's really cool. 30,000 IU is a good whack. That'll make you feel awesome.
Yeah. Another thing I don't think a lot of people know with the sunlight as well is like you have to get it at high UV. That's when vitamin D synthesis is the highest. So that's like around midday. Some people might just be getting morning sunlight and evening sunlight, so they're not actually getting the adequate intensity. Yeah. So they're like, oh, I get sunlight. Why is my vitamin D so low? It's like that could be a reason. Then another thing that I see a lot as well is they may be saying like, oh, I supplement vitamin D, but my vitamin D is really low. Then we look into magnesium. And if magnesium is deficient, like you need magnesium to assimilate vitamin D as well. So then sometimes just a vitamin D supplement might not work. You need to support the magnesium as well. And then that's when we start to see the difference in the vitamin D.
Yeah, I love that. And magnesium is another huge one. So I think, if you're training even only 4 days a week, your magnesium requirement is 50% higher than a sedentary person. Now, imagine someone like when we were interviewing Corey yesterday here in Austin and training 6 days a week on cardio, 5 days a week weights, so double sessions most days. And you're like, imagine the magnesium requirement there, or your guys who are doing, and then stress, then caffeine and stimulants, and then all the other stuff. Yeah. So I would love to hear your recommendations, because like the RDI back in Australia, they'll say, 200 to 400 milligrams of elemental magnesium for males and females. For women, they'll say 200 to 300 milligrams. For guys, they'll say 300 to 400 milligrams of elemental magnesium. Now, I do a magnesium biglycinate as a straight capsule, 750 milligrams. They yield about 18-20% elemental magnesium. I like people really high, though, on magnesium. So I use like 300 milligrams of biglycinate in my everyday primal, 300 milligrams in my everyday health. I'll use a gram in my sleep. And I have people run all three. So they're getting like nearly 2 grams of total input. But I'd love to hear, because it's so commonly deficient with people with stress, with stimulants, and hell, it's an electrolyte people forget. So if you're sweating a lot, you're active as, energy production, all of it. So how much where do you start, and what are you seeing on the bloods? Because you're doing these markers, right?
Yeah.
So,
so for magnesium, I look at GGT.
Yep.
If that's low, that can sometimes simulate a magnesium deficiency. And then most people are deficient anyway. If you're training, if you're training and not supplementing magnesium, like you're deficient. Like that is something that I'm not very black and white, but I feel pretty confident saying that.
It's a safe bet, man. It is like it's 100% safe, because it's one of those supplements that university people respond well to, and it covers everything, and it's a cofactor to physically build testosterone. So like minimal, at a bare minimum, if you're listening to this podcast trying to optimize testosterone, again, you can take all the Tongkat Alis and Shilajits in the world. If you don't have the zincs, magnesiums, and things to build that with, you can't build it. You need the cholesterol and that's cool. So 100%. So you mentioned before biglycinates and L-threonates. Dosages, times of day.
Yeah. So I like 10 grams of magnesium per kilogram of body weight. So that can be anywhere for most people, like 700 to 900 milligrams.
Yeah,
which is
nice.
That's pretty conservative in my opinion, but definitely high quality. So like I'd be smashing that with glycinate or L-threonate.
Yep.
I like to titrate the dose up, because even with glycinate, some people start to get some gut issues, like loose stools and stuff like that. So like slowly working up. Some people might experience issues if you just go from not supplementing all the way to 1,000 doing
especially like a citrate or something.
Definitely not citrate. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Even with glycinate, like myself personally, when I dose glycinate, I got a powder, so I could just like mega dose it, and I started to experience some loose stools the next morning. So like titrating the dose up close to around that 10 grams per kilogram, which is around a gram for most people.
Yeah.
And then you can, depending on how you're feeling based on that and your training load, you can possibly go a little bit higher.
Yeah, sure. And is that 1,000 milligrams? I've got to be mindful of imperial over here versus metric, right? But thank you for using that in milligrams for my audience. Appreciate that. It's the one thing I'm so thankful for, is this universal thing. Whether I'm in Europe talking to people, whether I'm here, everyone talks milligrams in supplementation. Yeah, exactly. I'm so thankful for. But so
that'd be crazy to do.
Oh man, imagine trying to do that in ounces or But so in your clientele, so now is that 1,000 milligrams total yield or elemental? Out of curiosity, with the magnesium,
it's the total yield.
Yep. Great. So about a gram of magnesium across what best sources we can tolerate that sits well in our gut. Good. So I found I tend to agree. So I went for a lot of people are using as their foundational stuff with us the Everyday Health, the greens, and the Everyday Sleep at Night as a sleep product. Like I built out the Everyday series to be like this thing that'll help bulletproof people against just how insane life is now. Yeah. And so to look at like adrenals, sleep issues, and the greens part. And like in the greens being like a lot of those like biglycinates, vitamin D, seleniums, iodines, zincs, all those cool ones. So I try and space that magnesium out. And again, they sit around that 1.3 grams combined. And so just on that top end of where you sit. So I like we're on the same page with that sort of level of like, that keeps you on the top end of the optimal range. If you're an active person, hell, go higher. With the full three, like I get it to 1.6 grams even on total, but I do multiple forms and I space it out with people. So they're using the primal in the morning, one at lunchtime. So they get like 150 and 150, the gram at bed, 300 with the green. So I try and spread that out evenly.
Definitely.
But I do find that I think people got disproportionately good results once the micronutrients were included. And specifically, I went heavy on the mag, heavy on vitamin D, but also zinc, selenium, and iodine. And specifically iodine and selenium, I think from the thyroid perspective, don't get spoken about enough. And even from the detoxification perspective, using selenium and iodine a lot of time in like phase 2 detox with the liver, I think they get... Do you guys see, like with thyroid panels and stuff and with guys, do you often see... mean, in my background, I found a lot of guys who've been dieting on and off, done bodybuilding shows, people who had even just, man, Gen Pop who've been yo-yo dieting for years, plus a high-stress job. Metabolism was just, it was put, right? It was just shot. It was slow as throwing some zinc, selenium iodine, throwing some things for thyroid function. Cool. Nutrients that you're going alongside with your magnesiums. What are your other sort of favorites whilst we're in the vitamin mineral space?
Yeah, definitely selenium, like you said. Like a lot of the blood tests that I see, the good ones that have TSH, T4, and T3. A lot of them just have TSH, which doesn't do shit.
We have that back at home too, man. It's you as well. So anyone listening out. So and this is the biggest pet peeve. Whenever you talk to people about that, because we made a fat burner metabolize, right? And it's basically, we call it a fat burner because it's easier to understand, but it's a thyroid tonic, right? So it's like yerba mate, olive leaf extract, coleus fork sole, zinc, selenium, the iodines from kelp. Like it's a really nice, natural, holistic way of hitting thyroid function. And you'll speak to someone about thyroid, and like, oh, I've had my bloods done, I'm good, right? And with the TSH, and again, the range of like 0 to 3, and if you're at 3, you're like, you might as well be dead, and if you're at 0, you are like hyperthyroid. You know, like you've got this huge barn door of a range. And we don't test T4 or T3 as well in Australia, which is really weird because that's the only thing that actually really mattered. Nice. It's the only thing, man. So I love it's weird you have that here as well, because so people at home, even if you're getting your bloods done and you're being as diligent as you can about getting your thyroid panels done, make sure you also request T4 and T3, the actual active thyroid hormones, and specifically T3 as well. That's a really good point, man. So really cool. So selenium, happy days. Nice cofactor in some productions of hormones as well, which is cool.
Yeah. I see the low T4 significantly, like a lot of the times. So then simple fix Brazil nuts or supplement with selenium. That's usually the go-to for me. Other nutrients, we touched on zinc a little bit, but zinc is definitely something that I see.
I'd like to hear your opinion on that and dosages, because zinc there's a heap of bioaccumulation conversations around zinc, how much you need, how long your body stores it, but also how universally amazing it is. So it's like involved in hundreds of metabolic processes, cofactors for bulk hormones. So where does your dose sit? What forms do you like? What do you do with the zinc?
So again, it depends on what's going on. So if it's more like gut issues, leaky gut, the zinc L-carnosine is something that I'll throw in there.
Beautiful. Love it.
And usually for most people, if it's not that, it depends. Sometimes I'll do like a zinc glycinate if it looks really deficient. So just like get some zinc in, smash that high absorbable zinc. But then also with zinc, you kind of have to be careful about copper, because if you dose zinc for too high for too long, it'll decrease copper. So there's another product that I use that has both. So it has like I think it has like maybe 20 milligrams of zinc and I forget how much copper, but it has enough copper to temper the zinc. So you're not depleting copper when you're smashing zinc.
Yeah, I love that.
Another thing I love is just beef liver.
Grass-fed beef liver.
Massive vitamin A, zinc, and then copper as well. So that's like, instead of supplementing, you could hit that.
Yes, nice bioavailable form.
Yeah, a lot of people don't love it though. Like, I don't love it either.
Look, capsule forms.
I've done it. Yeah, capsule form is the second way to go.
It's tricky to get the same amount of dosages though. So when like desiccated thyroid, it's like desiccated thyroid, desiccated adrenal, desiccated liver's cool. I still find it hard to replace the nutrient quality, bioavailability, and just the amount you can eat by having whole liver and fresh and eating it. But then that's going to be a barrier for a lot of people. So like capsulated liver products, I've been looking for a good source for quite a while to do because it's one of those products when you first start using it, you notice the energy difference like that. Like if you have a good quality, like grass-fed liver supplement, man, incredible, right? And a lot of times you have to just get them on capsules to start with, but you notice that straight away.
I had one client who was diligent with the liver. He had a little shot glass and he'd do his raw liver in there and shoot it. He was just like, he would tell me like, dude, I feel high after. Like in terms of energy, just like I feel so good after. And I was like, yeah, dude, that's all the vitamins and minerals that you're getting. Very bioavailable.
When you mentioned 20 milligrams of zinc, so what is your because zinc dosage always fascinates me, right? And there's multiple forms, so I'll use like lower doses across multiple products because I like to and keeping the overall sub 20. So I'll do like 5 milligrams in the greens here, and I'll do like 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams in my test booster, trying to provide a minimal amount of a threshold to hit a basal threshold, but also being mindful that there's zinc in people's diets, and also it does build up over time. So I try and keep it around that, probably around the 20 meg. But interestingly, there's a lot of people who find massive benefits using it at higher doses for a period of time, specifically with deficiency, specifically with low testosterone. So where does zinc live in your little arsenal?
I would go probably 20 to 50.
Yeah, nice.
I haven't gone much higher than 50 out of the copper conversation.
Yeah.
I don't have too much experience with mega doses.
Yes.
Zinc.
Zinc 50 is good. 50 is like red hot. That'll get you going. I see like that's usually what I'll see also with naturopaths who are doing like the higher end correcting deficiency sort of conversation. So yeah, and like they'll put them on 50 milligrams for say 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month at tops if they're really low. And the energy differences, the hormone panel change, crazy. Like zinc is an awesome one. Like it was zinc, selenium, iodine, magnesium, B12. I love B12. Those ones I started really going big on. And I noticed even putting them in performance products as well, putting them in my like general health products, putting them in sleep products, putting them in the like hormonal products, man, crazy, like mental. Like even in my so Estro's my female hormonal balancing product, put a equivalent of about 500-600 milligrams of magnesium amino acid chelate right in there, and the original one didn't have magnesium. But even what that did for people, goddamn, man, the responses were like night and day. You know, like using the new formulation I put out with having magnesium, zinc, selenium, iodine, and so on. But the original had zinc, selenium, iodine, but the magnesium on top. It's amazing how beneficial and synergistic and how much they can improve outcomes. Exactly. Yeah, gotcha, man. So I guess with tying this all together, because we've now covered environmental burden, lifestyle factors, handbrakes. We've looked at some of your favorite supplements you've used in both testosterone, but also some basal fundamentals. Gone through bloods, gone through gut. This is brilliant, man. So I'm going to wrap this all up in a neat little bow and ask you for 3 takeaways that someone who's trying to listen to this today who wants to, optimize themselves, for our male audience out there going, how can I, improve my health, optimize my hormones, even before they manage to reach out to yourself and connect. What are some of the things they can start doing at home today? And that can be a supplement hack, that can be a lifestyle hack, but your top 3 favorite things you like doing.
Yeah. So I have to start. Number 1 is get your bloods done. Because if you're not testing, you're just guessing. So understand what your body needs, and then obviously getting it interpreted by someone who knows what they're doing, not just a doctor. They're just going to tell you, "Oh, you look great."
Yes, normal.
You're normal. Normal is actually trash in today's day and age. Like I said, 74% of Americans are overweight or obese. That is normal. That we don't want that. So that would be step number 1: get your bloods done, and then get it interpreted by someone who can help. Number 2, from a more broad sense, we talked about little lifestyle things here and there, but living more of a high T lifestyle. And what that means is essentially putting yourself on the edge a little bit more. So like leaning into discomfort. You can find, and this can be with business, just like in your day-to-day career, in the context of dating, like approaching women, putting yourself into those scenarios where it's a little bit uncomfortable, it's a little bit on the edge. That is giving your body the signal of like, oh, we're doing these dangerous things. We need to produce more testosterone. So from a lifestyle perspective, we can look into competition as well. So like going all the way back to the evolutionary, who do you think is gonna win in a battle, a high T man or a low T man back in the day? So competing, that gives our body the signal that we need to produce more testosterone. So like, yeah, we can look at the bloods and all this stuff and make sure that we have the substrates. That's very important, but it's also from a lifestyle perspective, we need to be giving our body the signal to produce testosterone. So if you're living in a basement, you're watching porn, you're playing video games, you're not lifting, you're sedentary, that lifestyle is not giving the body the signal to produce testosterone. So no shit, you're low T.
Yeah.
Conversely, a guy who's out moving around, he's building his business, he's training hard, he's sleeping hard, he's recovering, that lifestyle, he's competing, he's like putting himself out there, dating women, being around attractive women and all that type of stuff. That is signaling his body to like, oh, we need more testosterone because we're doing all these things that require it. So looking at your lifestyle, auditing your lifestyle, how can I live more of a high T lifestyle?
That's cool.
Yeah. So those are two really good ones. The third,
I almost want to make one of them, and it's probably going to make number 4, so I'll just tack mine on. I like the fats piece that you did there, because the audience might expect me as a formulator of a supplement brand to say, oh no, insert natural test booster here. I hate being cringy with that shit and being commercial with it. Like obviously we have a product that helps with testosterone, that's fine if you want to do, but I would say the fats piece. I see a lot of guys under eating on the getting adequate dietary fats in their diet. I think having I just generally say 30-ish% of your macros from fats, just because again, but do you have an amount there? Just because I think people from the very top of the totem pole need to have the substrate to build this hormone in the very first place too. So I'll hijack point 4 for your 3, because I love and I'm surprised by the first 2. So, but 4, I'm going to say adequate fats. What do you do in grams though for guys? Because I'm very curious.
Yeah, obviously it depends on how big they are, but I wouldn't really go anywhere below 45, 50.
Yep.
That's like kind of the lower limit for me. And then anywhere up to, some of my guys are over 100, but 50 at the lower limit, and then 100, 120.
Yeah,
on how big they are
as a top end. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And they said for year round as normality, once you've gone through your priming phase, because I think that's one more wrap up take home from this as well, is definitely I love that you started this podcast with, you do a health priming phase first. I wish in the supplement industry, the fitness industry at large, the competing and bodybuilding industry, there's a lot of before and after photos, but there's not what's after the after photo once you've done the train wreck to your biology that is a severe diet and look, it's an amazing achievement getting up on stage. I've done it multiple times and love it. But the after photo, that's cool. But like after the after photo, it should always be the health optimization phase, getting ourselves back up to reverse dieting to maintenance calories, sitting at maintenance calories with adequate fats, great micronutrient focus, good sleep, lowering cortisol. Focusing on restoring health at a basal level there for a good period of time. I love you started there, because from there you can't ask your body, if you're building a castle on sand, if you're in this depleted, deficient, low thyroid, low testosterone environment with high stress, with crappy sleep, that's your normal. And then you apply the stress of a calorie deficit, apply the stress of, hey, can we stimulate more hormone production? What do you think your body's going to do? All right, it's so I like that you went like lifestyle first, also putting yourself in an environment where that is there, because even just creating those situations that you're in is a big one. So for those people who are in the health optimizing phase, and where do you run them on those fats as a normal for that, just for that optimization phase, out of curiosity?
Every answer that I get, it depends.
Yeah, good answer. Most
like same with this guy that we talked about with the fat absorption issue. I'm not going to jam fats for him because he's not absorbing them. So we're going to go a little bit lower fat for him. We're still going to give him enough. Like we didn't go below 45. I can't remember where we went, but a little bit on the lower end to get his, because we're not jamming fats on a system that's already not able to absorb it. So we pull fats down, give his body what he needs to start absorbing fats, and then we start to ramp fats back up.
Cool.
So again, it depends on their digestive capacity. Same with protein. Like if they have low stomach acid, we're not going to go super high protein because it's going to putrefy and it's going to create gut issues.
It's funny, man, that the it depends answer is always a sign of someone who knows their shit, because and it's great. Like and it's funny the further down the rabbit hole each person gets, the more it becomes the answer, right? Because you learn that over time there is no general answer to things. And it's funny, like being, I've had to be a bit of a jack of all trades as a formulator, because you're trying to make a product that thousands of people can use that'll benefit. So it's quite funny now. It's almost trying to go through the literature and find things that are like a bit of a panacea, things that'll work across thousands of people, right?
Yeah.
But that is always the great answer. That's the hallmark of someone who knows their shit, because when you I'll sit down and interview research scientists, chemists, naturopaths, people who are like proper top of their game, people who have been deep in the academic space for years, and it will always be the answers are it's remarkably simple levers. The big rocks they refer to are typically these universal ones, but the it depends answer comes up almost always as the sign of someone who, because it does, and the human machine is such a complex, amazing thing. Mark, for people at home who have listened to this and go, man, this sounds like something I need to be a part of, I would like to, I've heard that this advice is great, but I want to go a step further and reach out to yourself. Where can they find you for, learning more of your content, for reaching out with you in a coaching capacity? What's the best way to connect with you, Mark?
Yeah, so the best way is Instagram. Instagram is my name, Mark Holman Health.
Great.
I'm on there pretty heavily, so just you can message me there. And anyone who is listening to this and has bloods, you can just DM me Primabolics, and then I'll know where you came from, and I can look through the bloods complimentary.
Man, that's a massive service, and I think that's something that I'd love to be able to build into our offering, and something that I think we're going to be able to collab on. So watch this, guys. There's some stuff happening behind the scenes, because I think being able to look at functional blood work alongside supplementation, is an amazing natural partnership. So, man, thanks today for dropping so many knowledge bombs. People, Mark Holman for the Instagram handle there. If we missed it, we'll drop it in the show notes. And by all accounts, anyone who drops in the code Primabolics to his DMs there will also get complimentary blood work, which is a very expensive and high-level service. So I really recommend you guys really take advantage of that service. That's a very generous offer. So thank you, Mark, for coming today, mate. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, amazing.
Unreal.
Cool.
What a chat, man. That's